Welcome to iChongqing. I'm Xiaowu. The 2020 Chongqing Government Work Report has been freshly released, and it reviews on the challenges and the achievements the city has accomplished in 2019, and it also outlines the projects and also tasks for 2020. From the work report, the target of speed up the construction of opening up in inland China and work hard to lead opening up in the Western region stands out among the highlights. As China, along with other major cities, takes great efforts to open up and bring in foreign business and investment, a lot of foreign companies also looking to tap into this China's massive market. So what do the foreign corporations in Chongqing think about the foreign business environment here? For that discussion, we are joined by three distinguished guests. They are Sharon Fraser, the General Manager of Crown Plaza, Jiefang Bay, Chongqing, and the board member of the British Chamber of Commerce, Southwest China. Du Guoyu, co-founder of UKDE Limited, former chief representative of China-Britain Business Council in Chongqing. James Williams, the Director of Strategy and Business Development of Stone Time Finance. So how to attract more FDI to Chongqing? The government report promises to create a market-oriented and law-based international business environment, which will keep in line with the World Bank's evaluation index system to continuously improve the business environment here. So that sounds quite impressive. And I'm sure after years of experience on the market in Chongqing, you all have our own understanding of how the market works here. So we would like to hear about how do you think about the foreign business environment here in Chongqing, and from your notice, how it changes over the years.
Xiao, thank you. Good morning. I think we've seen a huge change, and it's becoming a lot easier for companies to do business. The red tape seems to be relaxing, and much more encouragement for companies coming in and making it much easier for them. And I think that's been very positive, and we've seen that change in the last couple of years. They're getting a lot more help from the departments of industry and commerce, foreign affairs department, a lot of cooperation and a lot of support. And I think with the visas also for people being able to come in and being able to set up companies and bring in some specialized workforce.
I would say, and we have seen so many dramatic change over the past several years' time. I still recall the first time when I back to Chongqing in 2012. At that time, we were still struggling with finding different local suppliers. So in general, I would say in the past several years, we have seen great improvements in infrastructure, like connected flights with overseas countries, like the local supply of the energy, and also as well as the infrastructure building up in this region. And also, the local government policy incentives have been quite improved over the past decades, and as well as the local supply for the talent acquisition. And so, in general, we have seen very good change, and it's in the right direction to attract the foreign investment.
So I work with Stone Tan Financial Leasing, and we specifically help small and medium-sized companies achieve their financing goals through leases. We mainly work with the manufacturing industry. I would say one of the big changes that we've seen since we started in 2014. In 2014, Chongqing's economy was really based on the automotive sector. Because of the past 2 years, the entire automotive sector in China has experienced a downturn. But luckily, Chongqing has been able to turn around and focus on other industries, including the electronics industry. And so what you've seen in the past 2 years is a lot of focus on the semiconductor industry, PCB, and cell phone manufacturing industry. This has brought in a lot of foreign investment and also investment, of course, from China. And this is, a growth industry, and therefore it has, for our company and also for many other companies, are looking into Chongqing and looking at ways to, get into this supply chain.
So actually, Chongqing, the government report also promised to want to create a more ideal, the business environment for this overseas or foreign business here, right? So, from your perspective, view, and how Chongqing can do to match the international standard to attract the foreign business.
So in order to build out the international standard investment environment, and the first thing I think should be build up the livable city, because we are not only attracting the foreign capital, we're also encouraging the employee and the new jobs creation. So a livable city with accredited service provider in education and in finance and service for the expats and for their community would be the first thing we have to sort out when we try to implement our new investment. And also, the local government incentives has to be fair enough to compare with the regional potential competitors in this region, and also along the other attractive area. And also, we have to leverage the framework rephrased by the central government, such like the Belt and Road and like the Chongqing and Singapore connection project. If Chongqing could better leverage those central government-initiated framework, and then the competitive and the advantage would be much more stronger. Thank you.
I personally believe that when foreign companies want to come to Chongqing, they actually want to explore more about Southwest China. They want to look at opportunities. They probably have already been to Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, but they're very interested in a market that's almost more than 200 million people. That includes Sichuan, Chongqing, Guizhou, and even Yunnan. And it's a huge market, and it's growing. If you look at Guizhou, they were the #1 growth market in China after, I believe, either #1 or #2. And therefore, if they want to come to this area, Chongqing can attract them to come to Chongqing and therefore benefit from all the other markets around Chongqing. And I believe key issues on doing that is just to say we're a very transparent place to do business, and it's easy to set up companies, and it's also easy to, if you've already set up a company, it's easy to either change ownership or capital structures, and that makes it easy for them to do business here.
Guo Yu, just adding on about your livable city, I think that's a very good point. Previously, Chongqing may not have always been considered desirable in attracting good local talent from Shanghai or Beijing, Wuhan, other cities. But now Chongqing is seen as a beautiful city. The government's done a lot to really make the infrastructure much more easy. We've got a fantastic new airport, the great train system, which is getting better and better, connecting Chengdu and another fast train to Hong Kong. The rivers are much cleaner. We have to take advantage of the beauty of the mountain city, and it actually appeals to a lot of people now. We're seeing more parks, more green, so a lot of effort's been put into the environment to make it much more attractive also.
Thank you. So what do you think the most urgent issue that needs to be addressed to make Chongqing a better foreign business environment?
I think the first thing is to make sure that Chongqing is suitable for the talent acquisition. Taking my company, for example, when we first deployed our assets in this region, one of the major obstacles we found is to attract the talents in this region. Even for now, we still have to hire certain high-quality employees from Shenzhen and from Beijing, because this fintech industry requirement is quite new, that we may not be able to find such kind of talents in this region. And taking another one, for example, when Xi Jinping released the incentive for the blockchain industry in the end of the last year, there are so many regions trying to join this competition. But before that, I remember that the Yuzhong district have continuously investment into this sector for quite a long time. They even built up the blockchain development zone in Yuzhong district for quite a long time. So when there's a new incentive being released by the central government, they will be able to put themselves in a very good position. So the first one I would say is the talent acquisition, and second one is to try to match with the strategic development window time frame, so that we can better coordinate with the trend of the major economic development. Thank you.
I'll just start out with actually a very simple issue, but I think it's very urgent, is just the role of public relations for Chongqing. Whenever I invite my friends from the United States or from other countries, first they ask me, what is Chongqing, where is it? And I always have to show them on the map that it's in the southwest part of this country. I believe that through help of iChongqing and from promoting Chongqing, this actually will help with foreign investment, because there's nothing it can be very challenging if you're in a multinational company and someone says, I want to invest in Chongqing, and if half the people at the table don't even know what Chongqing is or where Chongqing is, I think that's the first problem. So, through public relations to the international audience, I think is a very important issue.
James, I think you're absolutely right on that, and we see a lot of international guests come into the hotel. Recently, a couple of months ago, we had the Smart China Expo here in Chongqing, which was a great success, even more 2019 than the first one in 2018. And I had a lot of very distinguished visitors staying with us, and they were absolutely amazed at Chongqing. But yet, on the other hand, they told me immediately they'd never heard of the city. And when they came here and saw it, they just couldn't believe. And they saw so much potential. And, they would ask, why have we not heard about the city? Why do we not know? So, yeah, we need to get out there and promote it more, especially at a government level.
Thank you. What facilities Chongqing has provided that you think that the foreign business here need to know before they start to the business here?
I think, Gore, you touched on incentives. Make it attractive for them to be able to come in here. It costs a lot of money for them to move here and set up facilities. So good, solid incentives where then they can see some return. It's a big outlay when they first come in to make it attractive. Chongqing's always competing with other cities and other provinces. So there's got to be something in it to make it really worthwhile for them to come here.
Yes, I quite agree, and especially when foreign business try to enter this region, they have to better understand what's the current positioning and the local government position themselves into this economic map, and they have to better understand why Chongqing has developed the Chongqing-Singapore connection project, and how the Belt and the Road will play the role in Chongqing's future development, as well as the free trade zone policy. How can this be improved in the logistic planning, as well as the Yuxingou railway connection from Chongqing to Europe, and how this can be leveraged in their own business. So, in one hand, the major economic and policy incentives has to be very carefully researched and studied. And secondly, I think locally we have some very good organizations, such as CQIPA, and as well as the Chongqing Enterprise and Foreign Investor Association, which is a very good organization, membership-based. They provide very high-quality research reports every year, and all these local resources can be borrowed and can be leveraged.
Yes, just to mention on the other panelists, Chongqing every year, they host these very, very big events, such as the Smart Initiative Expo and the China-Singapore Connectivity Initiative. They have events every year about that, as well as the Belt and Road. I think a lot of foreign invested companies send delegates here during those events, and I think it's very important during those events that there are panels, preferably in English, but at least having translators that really let everyone that attends these events know what's really going on, and hopefully there's an atmosphere at those types of events that they can feel connected to the city and feel that they're able to get their questions answered, and feel motivated and excited about coming to this city.
The follow-up, I think, from those events also, James, that they stay connected with the people and the opportunities that Chongqing can present to them. And perhaps not just being in the city, but taking them out to other areas and seeing other zones and where there's a lot of development, like Xi'an, places like that. Yes.
Well, how do you see Chongqing's potential to build itself into an international consumption center, and also what challenges and also opportunities will come within it?
When I first saw this, I believe in the news, I've seen in the news that there's a plan to make Chongqing kind of an international transit hub. And I thought this was very interesting. Recently, there used to be only a 72-hour visa transit time, but that has been extended to 7 days. And I think that's very, very helpful, because with that, people going from Australia to Europe, or Europe to Southeast Asia, or even Europe to other parts in Asia, they can stop in Chongqing and they have 7 days to either travel here or even potentially do business meetings here in Chongqing. And I think with the connections between Chongqing, Chengdu, and even in the future Guiyang, that could be very useful. And so I think for an international consumption, that would be the first step.
I think when talking about the international consumption, we have to understand that Chongqing, the different district is quite decentralized. So different leisure, different regions have their own positioning. So by leveraging the design, and we can make the retail experience and consumption experience much more comfortable for different leisure and different parts of the consumer groups. And secondly, I think Chongqing can better work with the various type of the international organizations. When I was worked in the China-Britain Business Council, every year we work with different local retail hub, such like Guanyinqiao or Jiefangbi CBD. So work with them to build up the British Brand Festival. In this way, we can provide the high quality products and together jointly with the local department stores to provide better retail experience. So together with the international organization, we can make the consumption experience much more better. And thirdly, I would say the Chongqing can leverage the local logistic advantage, because by leveraging the regional railway connection, we can have products from Europe faster and cheaper than before. And also the connection with the Southeast Asia through the Jianghai Liyun, through the railway links, and as well as the domestic inland connection point with railways, we can have better import products so that we can provide better experience to local consumer.
Xiao, as you know, there's some incredible scenic spots in Chongqing, in the Wulong and Dazu, and a lot of people come here to take the Yangtze River cruise. A lot of people, when they've been here on business, and then they find out about these great spots, and are often very keen to stay on a few extra days. So there's extra consumption there. And often, I think it goes back to James's comments about the PR, people just don't know about these amazing places to go and scenery and nature in Chongqing. So often when they find out about it, they say, wow, we'd like to stay a few extra days and go to them. So it keeps people in the city, they go out to eat, there's some incredible restaurants now, much more better shopping, as Goyu says, but also keeping them in the city for a few more days, not just coming here for business, but also enjoying some of the beauty that Chongqing has to offer as well. So increasing that spend, staying in the hotels, going out to eat, taking trips to these places, they can only benefit as well.
Jerome, could you tell us about because when the foreign tourists they come to China or Chongqing, where to visit, right? And accommodation they care most, I think. Whether it's convenient about the accommodation of restaurants like this. As you are in this industry in Chongqing for a long time, could you tell us more about Chongqing's these standards of the hotels all around the city?
Oh, I think Chongqing has a wonderful standard and choice of international hotels now. There's a great choice. Most people like to stay downtown, because in the Yuzhong and the CBD peninsula area, because they can walk everywhere. The night view now is fantastic. It's really spectacular. People like to see this, to experience it. There's a lot of fantastic restaurants, a lot of local restaurants. Everyone has to eat hot pot, of course, when they come. And there's some great places now, and very, very clean, very high standard.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We have already covered a lot of grounds today, and we're looking forward to your participation in our next programs. And so that's all for today.
Great.
I'm Xiao Wu. This is iChongqing.